big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Today I'm joined by a very interesting person. Has a long corporate resume and now he's recently turned entrepreneur and loving his stint. I'm talking about none other than the co-founder of Dailyhunt, Umang Bedi, the former CEO of Facebook. Thank you so much, Umang.
Thank you so much for having me, Sonali. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm seeing you in a new avatar because you're, a corporate slave turned entrepreneur, but you're also looking very fit, very sharp, and I feel like I'm talking to a completely new person and seeing a completely new person.
Thank you so much. It's very, very flattering to hear that, but it's been a wonderful 18 months for me. You're right. I mean, I tend to describe that journey as being a corporate junkie. I had a lot of fun, but ever since I stepped out, I think I've seen a whole new world. And that world is around opportunities that exist across India, opportunities that exist not only in digital, but opportunities that exist in our own linguistic diversity of local languages, and just had a lot of fun with the ecosystem when you see young entrepreneurs who are trying to create. Some are trying to create from start, some are scaling, and I've been deeply embedded into the ecosystem with a partner in crime in Viru. And so it's just been a wonderful 18 months of transformation, both on our business and personally, I've taken into being fit.
Yeah.
And so come down from 140 kilos to about 79 now.
Many congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What a tall task.
It's just been a lot of fun. I think when you focus on something with ruthless prioritization, it happens. And for me, I think leaving the corporate world was all about how do I grow from success to significance?
Before we deep dive into this interview, for for my audience, I just want to get a sense of what Dailyhunt is doing, where it stands today, so that everybody is on the same page. So for the uninitiated, Dailyhunt is India's largest vernacular news aggregator.
Yeah, so I would say that that was Dailyhunt 1.0.
Okay.
So Viru founded the company, and in the first few years, grew it to become India's largest vernacular local language news aggregator. At that point, which was at the beginning of 2018, is when we had about 40 million users. We had about 20% of them or 25% of them coming back every day.
Okay.
They were spending about 18 odd minutes per user per day. And we had a revenue base of about 10 to 15 million US dollars,
okay,
right? Which was largely through advertising. And that statement that you made of being India's largest news aggregator was true at that point.
Okay.
Today, we have completely transformed into what we believe is a new company, or a Dailyhunt 2.0 avatar. And that is where we are India's largest digital media platform, which is an AI-powered digital media platform for content discovery for the next billion Indians. And so what really has changed is a summary of three things. One, the content supply has exploded. We earlier worked with about 700 large organizations. We now work with about 2,500 large organizations. We work with 15,000 professionally generated content creators, and we have built our own network of over 25,000 independent content creators who give us exclusive content on a Dailyhunt. The second thing that's changed is we've pivoted, it's News Plus. So news is about 25 to 30% of the consumption. That's it.
Oh, okay.
We've built India's largest hyper-local video platform, where we've launched 400 to 500 channels on the app, hyper-local, to give you hyper-local news and information about what's happening in your jurisdiction or your area, your locality.
And people are interested.
They love it, right? Okay. And that's a common trend. Even if you think about Malayalis in New York, they tend to get together about what's happening in their neighborhood. So it's a very human tendency to know what's happening around me. And it's not just news, it's information, it's events, it could be stuff happening in their local temple, and that's about another 25% of the consumption. The remaining 50% is everything else. It's astrology, Bollywood, cricket, divinity, lifestyle, entertainment, news, women, youth, sports, gadgets. And so the whole content stack has pivoted, where we're aggregating or even curating and now producing 2 million pieces of content every day. Right?
Wow.
The second thing that's really pivoted is our AI strategy. And so we've built a very sophisticated tech stack that I can talk to you subsequently about,
Sure.
which is today driving about 27 minutes of time spent per user with very deep personalization with over 70 plus AI ML algorithms that are working on over 10 billion user interactions a day, driving that kind of engagement, which has been trained on about 1.4 million features, all in local languages, right? Which is a secret sauce and a moat. And I think the third thing that's really shifted is our ambition. And our ambition really was that we need to create a scale company. A scale company is built on real world revenue, not just MAUs and DAUs.
Sure.
And so we now are at getting to a mark of $100 million US, which is really big in terms of the India context, where the duopoly usually dominate in terms of the advertising spend. And I think where we're headed in the future is we're pivoting the platform to say, this is going to have a true network effect of being a platform which stands for all things vernacular. So today it's content.
So you are keeping that position.
We're keeping that position,
Okay.
right? That's our strength, and that's where Bharat is. And if you think about how the internet is changing in terms of a landscape, we're 500 million users today, 200 million English-speaking users, about 300 million plus vernacular users. In the next 3 years, when the internet hits the same reach as television, we're going to have about 850 to 900 million users. English is going to grow from 200 million to about 211 million users. But vernacular is going to be 700 million.
So what's the current, number of daily users that you have on Dailyhunt?
Yeah. So today, Dailyhunt Group consists of two entities.
Okay.
One is Dailyhunt, and the other is a publishing entity that we own, which is One India. Dailyhunt alone today is at about 206 million monthly active users.
Okay.
One India, deduped, is uniquely another 60 odd million monthly active users. So together as a group, we report our MAUs at about 266, 267 million.
Okay.
But Dailyhunt alone today is 206 million.
And the average time spent?
So that's the average time spent is about 27 minutes per person per day, and the DAU to MAU ratio is about 40%. The interesting part is where we're getting our traffic from.
Yeah, exactly.
So 95% of the 21,000 pin codes in India is where we're getting traffic from. Of course, these are in various degrees of concentration, but we really are a platform that stands for Bharat, right? Because with 14 languages, you have the ability to reach 1.05 billion of the 1.2 billion people that we cover, right? So we really are covering, and our usage is very similar to the demographics of India. So about 35% of the app is Hindi, 10% or less than 10% is English. The South Indian languages put together, which is 250 million people in the country, which represents about 20% of the overall population,
Sure.
is what our usage is. Same for Gujarati and Marathi, which represents about 150 million people, about 10%. That's roughly around where we are in terms of consumption, and then Odia and Bengali. So a really nice mix. And then of course you have Punjabi, Bhojpuri, Urdu, and the longer tail of languages that supplement the remaining 100 odd million.
And what would be I would assume your demographics would be anywhere between 18 to 30 or,
Earlier in 1.0, when we were a news aggregator, our demographics were very focused on news-hungry audiences.
Sure.
Now, news-hungry audiences tended to be a little older, 28, 30 plus. Today, our audience shift has really been quite dramatic. About 65% of our base, or 70% now, is below the age of 30.
Okay.
And within that, about 70% is below the age of 25, right? So it's a younger audience, 18 to 25.
and what are they consuming?
In the Hindi-speaking belt, government jobs are a really big deal. And so people come onto our platform to consume literally every piece of general knowledge information so that they could answer the questions in the exam a lot better, right?
Right.
In the South, again, we see different trends. In Andhra Pradesh, it's all driven by their local film industry. That
Okay.
is really big. In Chennai and Tamil Nadu, it's all about local politics.
You're also a venture capitalist's favorite baby, because the number of people who funded you in the past and the recent articles on funding that's taking place right now, it's interesting that the kind of interest you're generating with anybody that has money.
All I can say is if you're driving growth, but driving growth on strong fundamentals, and those fundamentals are engaged users who spend time and a monetizable user base. Now, when you talk to advertisers,
Right.
They want to talk to SEC AB, urban and rural, right? Depending on where their markets are. If your base is built on racy, raunchy content where you're only targeting SEC, CDE, that's not monetizable because the amount of disposable income that they have is not great. Plus,
Sure.
the stickiness on those platforms is questionable over a period of time. It comes in these very big spikes.
Sure.
So it's not a monetizable base. As long as you're building revenue and you're building a real world business, that's when you attract interest. And so, we're constantly growing, and that's our journey.
Given that you were heading Facebook and now are doing this, you'd be the best person to tell me what's the difference between an international platform such as Facebook and an Indian platform that's hyper local here, because you've had the experience to look and deep
Both
dive
sides.
into both sides, and objectively, which I guess you can't be now because you'd be biased towards Dailyhunt. Objectively, how do you think Facebook will fare in the long term vis-a-vis players like yourselves?
So I think Facebook, Google, these are world-class companies, right? I think there's a lot that brands like ourselves and other Indian startups can learn from them. I think the first thing is how they've really adopted tech at the heart of everything else. So it starts as a tech platform and the way tech has scaled, right? There's a huge learning that all of us should be inspired by. The second thing that I would say about these global companies is what they've figured out really well is once you get success in your core market where you launch and the initial test case is proven, how do you localize and scale very quickly across the globe, right? Google's done that successfully, Facebook's done that successfully, some of the others lesser so, but especially these two, right?
Sure.
And so I think they've gone and built moats in the business which are irreplicable from their fronts. One on social media, one more around search and video and YouTube and whatever. Now, the interesting part is, how do I look at them in India, right? I think not too many global brands really have an understanding of India at the base of Bharat. I think we're very skewed towards serving tier one audiences, today I think the hottest thing all around when I meet people in tier one India is Instagram, right?
Yeah.
But hey, there are 60 million or 65 million monthly active users on Instagram compared to a much larger number elsewhere. Now, what does that tell you? So I was talking to an Uber driver the other day, and I got off this office, he asked me what I did, he Googled my name, and he gave me my whole background. This is a very savvy driver, right? I was like a little intimidated. So I asked him, so he said, "Sir, can I send you a request on LinkedIn or on Facebook?" And I said, "Sure." But I was surprised. I said, "Why wouldn't you send me a comment on Instagram?" And I think what he said was enlightening. And I think even while I was at Facebook, I didn't have this deep appreciation. He said, "Sir, aap kitna kamate ho?" in Hindi, right? And I was like, "Okay, let's assume that you earn X. Let's say it's 10,000 rupees." He said, "How would you feel if I put you in a room with 10,000 people who earn 1,000,000 rupees, 10 lakh rupees?" So I wanted to say that I would feel a little intimidated. This is not for me not where I belong. He says, "That's how I feel on Instagram," right? Because it's all about fancy cars, fancy experiences, great food, great wine, great
I
locations.
think Instagram executives won't be very happy with that comment.
No, I think it's great. I think Instagram is doing a lot now to localize and get more into the wops and whiffs of society. But I'm just giving you an anecdotal truth of what I saw. And I think that's the area that we have done a good job on, right? Is really go to local Bharat at a deep level, right? Whereas I think we have a lot to learn from Google and Facebook in terms of how the journey goes. I think the large players will always stay, right?
Will they make money?
Hard to comment on what's happening because there's so many newer players coming into the market, right? I think the businesses that will sustain over time are businesses who have been built on real world revenue. So I think Google and Facebook will continue to grow and, they'll do well because they've got a great tech moat. I think companies like ours who are pivoting on tech will do well and others. But the ones who...
But everybody is gaming for the same pie, right?
It's true, but it depends what you're using to game for the same pie. So a lot of these companies that I can see are using content, right? And if you don't build tech moats, wherein, when I mean moat is a real sustainable advantage in the business and a real market use case where people come back to you every day, right? It's not a fad of a season.
Sure.
And so that's what you need to build. Companies who are just built on MAUs and DAOs on basis content are struggling with monetization. They're all struggling. Think of it this way, that let's say I ingest 2 million pieces of content every day onto the platform, right? We now understand content to a depth. So the content could be in technology. Within technology, there could be an article which is comparing two mobile phones. There could be a video, there could be a tweet, there could be an embed or an Instagram post, right? And then there's the feed or whatever's been written about the article. We go and understand what's the headline, what's the language, what is this saying. We look into each image. We check it for not safe for viewability or not. We'll break up the video and examine each pixel and then generate over 25,000 tags per language on that content. So I'm able to classify that content onto a certain depth of hierarchy and newness. At the other side, we look at user signals. User signals, which we track every day across the 250 million people who come back every month, is about 10 billion interactions a day. That's built a 20 terabyte size of just a user consumption profile. On that, we run about 17 AI ML algorithms, which are now moving on to neural vectors analysis, where we are constantly looking at what is the behavior pattern that Sonali is showing. What does she like to consume, when and where, right? And at that time, these models are trained on over 1.4 million different features, right? Over 50 million historic stories per language in local languages. So these are deep machine learning models. Now, once the machine learning models develop what are the potential candidates that could be interesting for Sonali, AI comes in to really characterize the feed and build that unique feed. Now, coming to the challenge with something like this is the ability to create echo chambers, right?
Sure.
Because the moment I'm giving you more and more and more of what you want, where we could be, in that position where we're building an echo chamber for you, right? What we did there as a responsible platform was actually tweak the algorithm. And so, we launched this campaign during elections where we said, hashtag khud ki soch banao, Dailyhunt chalao, right? Which actually meant that we're going to show you multiple opinions on the same topic, which are diverse, which is a little risky because let's say you're consuming content from a certain media or publisher and they have a certain bias. So let's say take demonetization. Somebody may say it's good, somebody may say it's bad.
Sure.
Let's say you're reading something that's someone that says it's bad and you're forming an opinion, right? Just basis that one point of view.
Sure.
But on demonetization, we're going to show you multiple perspectives so that you're well informed and you form your own opinion. Now that's actually against the rationale of digital media businesses. Make no mistake. Oh yeah.
Because you're still sticking to the subject that interests me.
Not really. So digital media businesses are built on only two variables: the maximum number of users who spend the maximum amount of time, right? And assuming you retain these users. What that creates is ad inventory. So imagine that we're sitting in this room and we have Dailyhunt and you're the only person on Dailyhunt and you spend 10 minutes a day, right? Now let's say in 10 minutes, the length of the feed that you scroll is 10 feet, right? And after every foot, hypothetically, let's say I put an ad and let's say I make 1 rupee from each ad for a second, right? So I make 10 rupees because Sonali spent 10 minutes with me. Now if I have 200 million Sonalis who spend 10 minutes, I can make 200 million into 10. That's 2,000 million rupees, right? And if I have 200 million Sonalis who spend 30 minutes with me, that number triples, right? So media businesses are built around that rationale. There is no third variable. And whoever's telling you anything else is not giving you the truth, right? So the moment I give you something that you don't want to see necessarily, right? I'm eluding away from that time spent, right? But what we are doing as a responsible platform is showing you these diverse perspectives such that users can really form their own opinion, because there are enough narratives around echo chambers being created in today's society, which is not healthy. It's not healthy for society. It's not healthy for the nation altogether as well. And so that's the way we are really building the business.
I'm assuming right now you're not making money. You're still in your investment phase. or how long will be the investment phase before you actually become a profitable business?
So, the beauty about advertising is that, you can scale that business quickly once you get the moats in the business right. So at a per unit economics level, our gross margins are very positive and looking very healthy. What we are doing right now is using that to invest into growth, which is why overall we're not cash flow positive yet, right? Which is why we are in that phase, right? The way I'll frame that is, if I really had to think about the journey, today, I don't know if you've looked at our growth metrics from the 40 million to the 250 million in a period of maybe 12 to 13 months. We're growing about 10 to 15 million plus MAU or monthly active users month on month.
How? I mean, how do people find you?
So, interesting question. So just to summarize that point, we're investing in growth. We believe in the next 18 months to 2 years, we would break even, right? And that's the journey. How do people find us? It's a great question. So 2 ways that people find us. One, 50% of our users come and find us organically. Now, I don't know if you notice, I'm a big believer in the power of what Jan and Brian created at WhatsApp. I think it's a phenomenal app. And Indians, thrive on WhatsApp, right? Below each piece of content on the feed, you have the ability to share using WhatsApp. So let's say I read a piece of content on a holiday in Goa or a destination in Turkey, and I share it to my friends and family group. Somebody clicks, he comes onto the platform, right? And so 50% of our user base comes through shares, because our shares are, in hundreds of millions a month, right? That's how big that is. So a lot of user base comes in and discovers us via that source. The second thing is we power a lot of interfaces.
But I agree, but what's my motivation as a user? And I've landed on your page and I've read or consumed whatever I have to. What's my motivation to download?
So we don't necessarily want you to download.
Okay.
We just want you to consume. And if there's something that catches your eye, you share, right? And a lot of us, we tend to share a lot of WhatsApp, and especially in Bharat, right? Well, we may be representatives of a tier 1 sliver of a smaller audience. So sharing is one. The second is all the handset manufacturers in the country partner with us and preload our app, right? Across the highest end smartphone that you can think of to the lowest end one, right? Because 75% of those smartphone sales are happening in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, which is where our target audience resides.
But what stops, the big players who you're now strongly competing with, which is the Facebook and the Googles and the Amazons of the world, to actually go your way, especially in the Indian market? Because if that's where the money is, why wouldn't they understand this from you and get that done?
I think that's always an option. I think all those platforms do serve local language audiences already. They are available in local languages as well, right? I think it's hard for global companies to understand local to such a depth, because product teams are global, engineering is global, whereas you don't even have product folks on the ground. So I think we're really building bottoms up. But ultimately, I think there will be room for everyone to play.
You think so?
I think so. I think the market's large enough, at least in the next 3 years.
And the advertising pie?
So that's an interesting question. So the advertising pie has been dominated by 2 players, right? And that's significantly because they had an early start, right? I don't think Indian companies innovated enough. You could argue that China has innovated, but you could also argue that they don't have Google and Facebook there in those markets. But I think short form video under 6 seconds is what advertising is heading towards. So ads were big time slots, right? Over time, they came to 30-second TVCs. Now you're down to 15-second TVCs, 10-second TVCs.
And now we're down to your new campaign, which is like, I don't know, 4 seconds?
It's a very short campaign. So yeah, the new campaign is actually pretty cool. It's called #Dailyhunt Henna.
नए अपडेट्स हर मिनट ऑन डेली हंट। रखो अपने एरिया की खबर. Local updates only on Daily Hunt.
And this time it's quirky, it's cheeky, it's fun. It's about real life situational scenarios in Bharat, right? So I was rolling with laughter when I saw those ads. Sippy is an awesome filmmaker who's made them for us with WIPR agency, but they're very situational. And so we're going digital in a big way. We're going television as well. But we are doing that targeting Gen Z.
On that note, thank you so much, Umang. This was very, very insightful, and all the very best for Dailyhunt. And I'm sure its innings are going to be even more stellar. And do you want to tell me anything about, since there's so many reports you've been reading on who's funding you next, when you want to tell me about who your new funder is going to be?
Well, can't comment on speculation and fake news. But the moment we are ready, we will definitely get in touch with you, Sonali.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
This
very
was
much.
fun. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.